But first, that mutual protection racket is over and good. No more will the Morrison government stop protecting the lethally incompetent Victorian government that is putting all Australia in danger from this virus. Now, these two governments had a deal. So it seemed to me. I won't criticise you if you won't criticise me. Well, that today ended as the Prime Minister, the Health Minister and the Treasurer all attacked the terrible, tragic blunders of Victoria's Andrews government. For the Prime Minister, I got to admit this was part politics, just shifting the blame for his own government's failure to properly protect our nursing homes. Most of the deaths were there. Shifting it instead to Victoria.
And we deeply regret the terrible events that have occurred to those individuals. What it reminds us of is that in the vast majority of cases that the plans that have been put in place have been effective. But in specific cases, that is the day when the virus has got the better of those centres and the arrangements around those. And the reason for that is, Mr Speaker, the level of community transmission that has occurred in Victoria cannot be underestimated.
Now, we had great plans, just a shame they couldn't deal with reality, but I blame the Victorians. Morrison does have trouble accepting blame, but he does have a point about Victoria. And the Health Minister, Greg Hunt, today got very specific. Why was Victoria, of all the states, the deadliest?
99% of lives lost since the 1st of June have all been lost in Victoria.
And as he said, gave some examples. Every state, except Victoria, managed to run quarantine hotels competently. It was Victoria which, for some bizarre reason no one's ever explained, got amateur guards to do the security, which had the virus escape and kill hundreds of people.
99% of lives lost since the 1st of June have all been lost in Victoria.
And it was, of all the states, only Victoria, which had a tracing operation that just couldn't keep proper track of who might have got infected.
The difference between Victoria and New South Wales has been the Public Health Unit's tracing program. It has prevented an outbreak on a catastrophic scale.
Now, behind the scenes, privately, the Morrison government's been frustrated for many months by the Victorian government's bungling. But it wanted cooperation, not war, and it kind of benefited from the, don't criticise each other line. But as I said, that all ended today. And no Morrison minister was more scathing of Victoria than Treasurer Josh Frydenberg. And that's not just because Victoria's awful mistakes have hurt the whole economy, with various states all keeping their borders closed, killing the tourism industry, with Qantas today announcing it would sack another 2,500 people on top of the 6,000 last month. In Victoria, in fact, 400,000 jobs have been destroyed by the virus bans, said Frydenberg, who's also picked up on the fury in that state over Premier Daniel Andrews saying he wants now to extend his state of emergency by 12 months, so he doesn't have to keep asking Parliament's permission to do what has been doing to that poor state, including locking up the public in their homes.
There are Victorians right now who are subject to curfews. Victorians who have seen businesses close. Victorians who have seen schools close. Mr Speaker, people can't go to work in Victoria. Now, Mr Speaker, Victorians look at New South Wales and they ask, why not us? They look at New South Wales with lower number of cases and a lower number of deaths. And they look at the fact that in New South Wales there has been 315,000 jobs created in recent months. Now, I understand why Victorians are now very concerned by the Victorian government announcing yesterday that it wants to extend the emergency powers for another 12 months. I share those concerns, Mr Speaker.
Now, I always like nails getting banged where they should be. But there's going to be journalists of the left that are going to say, oh, this is so divisive. We should just support the Victorian government. Let's follow the rules. But this is not being divisive. This is holding politicians to account. Politicians have been making such terrible, basic mistakes that more than 400 Victorians have since died. Another 8 more deaths today, all aged in their 70s or older, 7 of them in aged care. But indeed, in saying all that, and let's not forget how unprepared the Morrison government itself was in protecting people in aged care.
Is it correct that the Prime Minister waited until the 25th of July to announce the Victorian Aged Care Response Centre, well after high levels of community transmission in Victoria had taken hold, after 294 Victorian aged care residents had been infected, and after 26 aged care residents in Victoria had died?
Now, both sides of that, Barney, have been making mistakes, but as this debate now gets so heated and truths get told, I kind of think it's helping us to seize the central fact, the truth about what we should have been doing from the start. Yes, basic social distancing, hand washing, stopping flights from overseas, that was done too late. But then, from government, all we really needed was what I've called for since March, the toughest protection of the old, particularly of people in aged care homes, the toughest quarantine and the fastest tracing. In Victoria, fail, fail, fail. Now, if those had just been properly done, we would not have needed these shutdowns that have destroyed so many jobs, wiped out so many savings, caused so much depression, and caused so many suicides. This economic disaster need not have happened. And now the Morrison government says so too.